All right, so let's start with the big story of the day. Brazil has now got a new president. The country has brought the leftist leader, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, back to power after a decade that he had left office. Now, the president-elect defeated the most far-right government of Brazil, where Jair Bolsonaro ended up losing the election, but he still managed to get 49.10% of the votes. Now, soon after the announcement, Lula da Silva called for peace and unity, saying that Brazil is no longer an international pariah and the world needs a living Amazon.
Nós estamos dizendo ao mundo.
Today we are telling the world that Brazil is back, that Brazil is too big to be relegated to the sad role of pariah of the world.
Papel de pária no mundo.
Now, in his victory speech, Lula in fact reached out to the supporters and rivals alike. He emphasized on the need for democracy and opportunity. And he also touched on gender and racial equality and the urgent need to deal with hunger crisis affecting nearly about 33.1 million Brazilians.
I'm here to govern this country in a very difficult situation, but I have faith in God that with the help of the people, we will find a way out so that this country may live again democratically and harmoniously.
Para que esse país volte a viver democraticamente, harmonicamente.
And from the British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak to the Russian President Vladimir Putin, prominent world leaders congratulated Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva on his victory. And American President Joe Biden also tweeted his congratulatory message for the victory, where he said that in a free, fair and credible elections, and went on to state that he is looking forward for continued cooperation between Brazil and the United States. The Russian President Vladimir Putin expressed hope for strengthened ties with Brazil while congratulating Lula da Silva for his victory. Meanwhile, China's Xi Jinping has said that he will be working with Brazil's President-elect Lula to promote the comprehensive strategic partnership between China and Brazil to a whole new level. All right, now to get us more insights in terms of what this electoral victory for Lula da Silva, of course, means for Brazil and for the much larger region in South America, we're being joined by Mr. Rodrigo Craviero, who's joining us live from Brazil, who's the Associate Editor of International Coverage for Correio Brazilien's newspaper. Now, Mr. Craviero, thank you very much indeed for taking time out and speaking to us here on WION. This, of course, is a big moment in Brazilian politics. Lula da Silva, 10 years after he had vacated the office, is now back again at the helm of affairs in Brazil. Was this, especially the fact that the election went right down to the wire and was way closer than what was expected, was this surprising for you?
Hi, how are you, friends? It's such an honor talking to you, friends from India. Here in Brazil, the sense here is of relief and happiness, no? And it was a very tight race yesterday. We faced yesterday a historical night. We watched the history in front of our eyes because the President Lula had no other leader in the history of the world had so many votes than him. So he had 60 million of votes, no?
Right.
And the difference between he and the President Bolsonaro was very little, very tight. 50.90% against 49.10. This is a difference of 2,100 million of votes, 2 million of votes, sorry. The counting was extremely tense, no? Bolsonaro had the lead until the 60% of votes counted. So then the votes from the Northeast region started to flow to the counting. And Lula took the lead.
Absolutely. Now, Mr. Craveiro, if I can just interrupt you there, the fact that, Jair Bolsonaro, despite what the pollsters were suggesting, the fact that he was able to stage such a strong fight and he lost the election only by a very thin margin. He managed to get 49.10% of the votes, and Lula da Silva managed to get just about 50.9%. That means this is not the end of the road for Jair Bolsonaro, and he'll still try and stage a comeback.
Yeah, we can say that until now there is only silence from President Bolsonaro. Yesterday he didn't make any kind of speech, no? He was inside the Alvorada Palace, didn't receive any of his allies, didn't talk with the press. Some of his supporters started to shout, "Meet," which is the name of them they call him. Mm-hmm. And he just turned the lights off the palace.
Right.
So I think the transition will be complicated. There are some blockades made by truck drivers here in mm-hmm. Some important, how can I say, some important highways here in Brazil, no?
Right.
Which are important for flowing the commerce, the goods. So I think we'll have 2 months of really complicated here in Brazil. But the speech of President Lula yesterday, he was trying to pacify the nation, mm-hmm. and it was very, very symbolical.
Now, the question that I want to ask you also, Mr. Craveiro, is because Brazil at this point of time politically looks deeply divided, because Lula represents a certain ideology. He's this far-left leader, and Jair Bolsonaro is in fact a far-right leader. And the election is almost evenly split, and Lula has just managed to win it by a whisker. Do you think Lula da Silva now has it in him to in fact unite the people of Brazil despite the political differences which exist?
Yeah, we will face many difficulties because Bolsonaro elected many congressmen for the next term, So I think Lula will have to try to dialogue, to talk with many of the forces, political forces here at Brazil. But he, as I said, he obtained many votes here, no?
Right.
It's a record. It's a huge, it was a breakthrough.
It is.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
I think this legitimates him.
Absolutely, Mr. Craveiro. Sorry, we have to interrupt you there because we are completely out of time. Thank you very much indeed for joining us from Brazil and getting us all those insights. This, of course, is a historic moment where 10 years after he had demitted office, Lula da Silva has managed to win the election by a whisker. Jair Bolsonaro has proven every pollster wrong. Everyone thought that this was going to be a cakewalk of sorts for Lula da Silva initially, but the election has gone right down to the wire, and it is Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva who is now back again at the helm of affairs in Brazil. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.